My guest in conversation today started out as a boy actor when he appeared in Song of Norway in London in 1946. He later joined the famous Brian Rix Company, and it was there and then that he started writing plays. Hit shows include Move Over Mrs. Markham, Not Now Darling, Two into One, Wife Begins at 40, Funny Money, Caught in the Net, Out of Order, and of course the globally successful Run for Your Wife. He is celebrating 74 glorious years in show business. He is Ray Cooney, OBE. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning after that lot. Wow. I've been around a bit.
Yeah, you certainly have been around a bit, yes, in the very best way. And the OBE is very nice, of course. When did that happen?
Well, I call it the oh bloody hell. It had happened I think about 5 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Very nice. Well deserved. So you were a boy actor. That's how it all started out. But how did that happen?
Well, my mother and father scrimped and saved. They were just working folk. Scrimped and saved to send me to a good school, Alleyne's College at Dulwich. But all I ever wanted to do was to go into the theatre. I mean, I've never been able to think why. I did go and see, my mother used to take me to matinees of some of the plays in the West End, and my dad would take me to see Sid Field and Max Miller, the variety artists. So maybe that's what just hooked me on it. And all I ever wanted to do was to leave school and go into the theatre. So you could leave school at 14 in those days. And so I said to my mum and dad, I want to leave school at 14, please go into the theatre. They said, you mustn't do that. We're giving you a good education. I said, I've got to go into the theatre. So we sat down with the headmaster and he said, Raymond, you really should stay on here, good education. So I said, no, I've got to go. So anyway, we finally came to the conclusion that I would walk around the West End and go in and see all the agencies and get myself an agent or a job in the theatre. So they said, okay, summer holidays coming up. You've got the summer holidays. So I walked around all the agencies, got a few auditions, and just before the holidays were coming to an end, I got this audition for Song of Norway at the Palace Theatre, directed by Emil Littler. And Linda's shaking her head. Anyway, it was Song of Norway.
Linda's your wife, who I take it is just hovering around, is she? Just checking.
Oh, she's hovering, yeah.
Yeah, Linda.
So I recited the whole of If by Rudyard Kipling, and I sang the whole of Bless This House. And I think they were so pleased to get me off the stage, they gave me the job. So I went into Song of Norway, which ran for about a year. And then the next thing I did, I was so fortunate, that finished its run. And then I got into a play called The Hidden Years, which was at the Fortune Theatre. And it was very nice, actually, because it was in the summer. And we used to, in the interval, we would go up on the roof and just sit in the sunshine, for 15 minutes. But luckily, it was opposite the Drury Lane Theatre, where Oklahoma was on, and all the actresses would come onto the roof and strip themselves and sunbathe there. So of course, we had to be dragged down off the roof of the Fortune. And then the Hidden Years finished. Then I did lots of bits and pieces. I was really very fortunate as a boy actor, tiny roles in movies.
When you think back, because we all sat there as kids and thought, it's magic up there, I want to be up there. Was it as magic for you, as magical, when you were actually up there on that stage?
Oh, I think so. Oh, I just loved it, as I always have. That relationship with an audience that's come in to see a show, especially comedies, you get the audience laughing, and it's just a splendid relationship with them. That was when I did my national service, of course, because in those days, whether you were playing a Cockney or a North Country man or whatever you might be playing, you had to be an actor who spoke like that. You had to be terribly, that's how all the actors spoke, and you just had, so I'd been having tuition lessons, getting my voice just like that, and of course, when I joined the army, everybody would fucking talking like that, and they were playing Cockneys and all that. And heard me talking like that, and they would send me up rotten. So I decided, I thought, well, right, I'll get some laughs and all that. So I used to, when the sergeant major was marching us around, saying left, right, I would trip over my foot and get it all wrong, and they'd laugh. And came out, and the first thing I did, of course, was to buy a copy of the stage to see where I might be able to get a job in the theatre. And I was very fortunate. I got a job in a fit-up company in Wales, where it was a place called Cwm Twch, not far from Cardiff, if I remember correctly. But it was, I didn't realise when I answered and got the job, it was just a village hall in a tiny village. And I joined this village company in Cwm Twch. And so I got to I knocked on a door and I said, can you tell me where the local theatre is, please? And this lady said, theatre? I said, yes, I've come to join the repertory company here, the theatre here. No theatre here, boy? No? Oh, you go and have a look at the village hall. So I went up to the village hall, and outside was a poster with 6 different plays on it. You know, My Wife's Family, I don't know what they were, anyway, 6 different plays. And then I saw Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and there was a different play every night. And I joined the last of the touring fit-up companies that were really killed in Wales when television came in, which it hadn't then. I was there I had a wonderful time doing a different play every night. And we toured Wales, and you'd stay in some places maybe 8 weeks in the village hall and do, maybe 40 different plays there. And so my study of plays got to be so good, and you had to know them really well, because doing a different play every night, you just had to know each play so accurately.
That is just amazing. Cannot imagine what that was like.
While I was there, I read an advert in the Stage, which was from Brian Ricks, who had become a huge success at the Whitehall Theatre, and he wanted people to audition for a tour of the show that was on at the time, and it was just going to tour, called Dry Rot, written by John Chapman. So I wrote to Mr. Ricks, and I said, I've done a lot in the theatre, and I would love to come and audition for you. So he wrote back and said, yes, the time is this and the day is that. So I went down to London for the day. I auditioned for Brian Ricks, and I got the role.
First time you met John Chapman then, when you were involved in his play?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I then went into Simple Spyman, which ran, in those days, for the actor, a run-of-the-play contract with equity was a run of the play. And so you had to do however length the play ran. And Brian Ricks's plays all ran 4 years. So as soon as I signed on, the houses were full every night, and I knew I was going to do 4 years in Simple Spyman. So I thought, well, I don't know, every night I'm going in, and during the day I'm playing tennis and chasing girls. I wasn't married at the time. And so I thought, I'd better do something else than this if I'm here for 4 years. So I thought, well, I don't know, I've been in the business a long time. I'd better start seeing if I can write plays. So there was another actor in the company called Tony Hilton. So I said to Tony, I said, how would you feel about trying to write a play while we're in this long run? He said, yeah, I'll give it a go. So we came up with an idea about Brian. We thought the play should be for Brian, because that would be shrewd. And we knew that Brian, had been playing nothing but North Country roles, we knew that he wanted to see if he could slip into playing slightly posher roles as well. So we came up with the idea of him playing 3 identical triplets, a North Countryman, a posh Englishman, and an Irishman. So Brian, of course, was thrilled. So we then did what I always learnt from Brian. We had a rehearsed play reading, rewrite. We tried it out at Leicester, rewrite. We tried it out at Windsor, rewrite. So by the time the West End Company came to do it, because Brian had fallen in love with it, all the actors were so impressed because it had been really, down to a fine piece. And it was a huge success.
Wow.
So after
what else did you learn from Brian? Obviously, you learned that little trick about rewriting the plays, but what about when he performed, presumably as a terrific farceur? His energy was amazing. His timing was amazing. So did you learn a lot about that from him?
I did. I mean, it was my only thing then. I could see that my whole life was going to be writing these or being in these kind of comedies. And I did love it. And I did learn everything so much from Brian. So then I asked Tony if he'd like to, while the long run of One for the Pot was on, I asked Tony if he'd like to come up with another play. And he said, I've got to tell you the truth, Ray, I don't like writing. I just want to be an actor. I don't like writing. So I was so disappointed. So I said, okay, I'll have a go by myself. So I sat down and I wrote, at that time, Nureyev, the Russian ballet dancer, had scrambled to over here. And I happened to be crossing from the Whitehall Theatre to across Trafalgar Square, and crossing the other way, I happened to see Nureyev. And I thought, I'll write a play about a Russian ballet dancer defecting over here. So I went down, which became Brian's next play. That ran for 3.5 years at the Whitehall. Then what did I do?
Did Nureyev ever know that he?
He came one evening to see, and we met him afterwards. And I took him upstairs to meet the actors.
And roughly, Ray, what year are we in now? Are we in the 60s?
Linda, what year would we be?
Roughly.
I think maybe
late 60s.
Early 70s.
Late 60s. Late 60s.
But presumably you kept up your connection with John Chapman during this time, did you? As friends?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. And then John Chapman rang me and said, would I like to sit down with him? He'd got a television contract. Would I like to sit down with him? And because he'd got to do about 20 of them, and co-write with him. And I explained to him that I'd just got another idea for a new play, which was Not Now, Darling. Oh, am I leaning on that and making it okay? I said I'd got an idea for a new play that I was going to write called Not Now, Darling. And Brian said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we co-write both? We co-write my television series and then we'll co-write Not Now, Darling. I said, great. So that's what we did, and was the first play we wrote together. And it was just that we never had a crossword in the whatever.
And Not Now, Darling was such a massive success.
It was.
And it's the story of two guys who run a furrier's, a very expensive and very successful fur salon in the heart of London.
That's right.
And it goes from there. And of course, at that time, fur was everything. It was, of course, everything has totally changed now. But at that time, you absolutely tapped into the glamour of a very funny play. Did you come up with the title, Not Now, Darling?
Yeah. And we got Donald Sinden.
Leslie Phillips.
Well, was Leslie Phillips wasn't Donald?
No, it was Leslie Phillips.
The first time, wasn't it?
Leslie Phillips. Oh.
Leslie Phillips. Yeah. Yes.
So who were the two guys, Leslie Phillips, and who played? There's a character called Arnold Crouch.
Absolutely.
Who was Arnold Crouch?
Was it Bernard Cribbins?
Well, I think it was Bernard Cribbins.
Okay.
It was Leslie and Bernard. Yeah.
Yes.
So we opened that, and that was
Wasn't Ray? Sorry to stop you. Wasn't June Whitfield in that?
Yes.
In London as well. The reason I know is because I've never done the play, apart from when I was about 16, and I was in an amateur version of it. God knows what that was like. But I played Arnold Crouch. I remember that.
Lovely.
you know, in those days, you always used to look at, when you were an amateur performer, you'd look at who was in it in London and think, oh, and I remember seeing Bernard Cribbins, and I remember seeing Jim Whitfield. And didn't you have a Miss? Was she Miss Great Britain or something, or Miss World?
Yes, Miss World, Anne Sydney.
Anne Sydney.
She'd been Miss World, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a lovely company.
Very clever casting. How long did that run in London? Can you remember?
How long?
Yeah.
It ran for, I think it ran for about 18 months, 20 months.
Wow.
And, but you know, there was such a lovely company of artists, actors and actresses. But over the years, all the actors who've been in, maybe it's something to do with these kind of plays, they just work together as a team, which you definitely, really, as you know, you need a team.
Yeah.
And some lovely performers, all of them. You know, Bernie Cribbins, Leslie Phillips, June Whitfield.
So was Move Over Mrs. Markham the next successful play after Not Now, Darling?
After Not Now, Darling. Yeah, that was the next one.
Because that's very difficult, Ray, isn't it? You've had that success, and then you've immediately got to come up with something else because you don't.
Yeah. But I did what I'd always done from the very beginning. We tried it out in weekly rep. I can't think when we tried out Markham. Oh, at Windsor. We tried it out at Windsor. Rewrite, and that was hugely successful. That ran at the Vaudeville in the West End.
And what's tremendous about that, in fact, really all your plays, and people maybe forget this, is you write terrific comedy parts for women. You know, Move Over Mrs. Markham, really the central character.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic part for a comedian, for a comical actress. And I think, wasn't it Moira Lister who did that?
Yeah, Moira Lister.
I mean, I never saw it because I was too young, but I know how great Moira, and people watching, anybody remembers Moira Lister.
Yeah.
You know, powerful woman and great comedy timing.
And a lovely lady as well. She was a nice lady.
Yeah.
Right, where are we? What happened after?
Can I just talk to you, Ray, about the process of writing with John? You said you never had a crossword. So how did it work? Take us through the whole process.
Well, we rented an office in London, and we would go and meet up there, and we would write from probably about 11 in the morning till 3:30, 4 in the afternoon, just sitting either side of a table, laughing a lot, and then we'd take it in turns to actually do the writing, and it was just a wonderfully happy time.
But presumably, Ray, one of you has the plot. So let's take Move Over Mrs. Markham. Did you have the plot, or would you say to each other, what about?
Well, I'd had the basic plot for Not Now, Darling.
Yeah.
I think I think it was, trying to think back with my memory having slipped a bit, I usually came up with the basic premise, and then John would, because I think we wrote 4 plays together in all, didn't we?
Yes.
But only 3 of them did the West End.
I think Giddy Aunt was in the West End as well.
Oh, it was Rant the Savoy. My Giddy Aunt, yeah.
Yeah.
Irene Handel.
Another great part and a great actress.
Yeah, lovely. And lovely to work with.
Yeah.
So yes, I think I would come up with the basic premise usually. Well, I obviously did with Not Now, Darling, because I was going to write that by myself to start with. But so anyway, we just got on so wonderfully well. Really good friends.
And would you both agree on casting? Because presumably these plays would be tried out by a certain cast of actors, and then if it went to London, you may have to bring in a big name. So would you both agree on who was?
Well, I would always play in them.
Okay.
Because I wanted to know to get on the stage and feel the relationship with the audience, as well as sitting in the with so John would sit in the audience and make notes, and I would be up there getting the feeling of how it was all going, and if it was slightly slipping away, I would bear that in mind and tell John. But so we had a really good relationship.
That was in the tryouts.
I did the tryouts, yeah. Well, so I would play in the rehearsed reading, and then the first tryout rewrite, and then the second tryout. Yeah.
And then presumably, if you were going to London, a producer would say, "I would like this person to play this part." And
well, we would always have a very strong say.
And you started the Theatre of Comedy, and was this when the idea for Run for Your Wife came along? When you were running the Theatre of Comedy in London?
Well, I'd written Run for Your Wife before that.
Had you?
Run for Your Wife was the first one, wasn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. No, but I'd written Run for Your Wife before and done the rewrite, etc. So we were sort of just about to bring it into the West End when I came up with the idea of the Theatre of Comedy. So it seemed sensible to kick it off with the Theatre of Comedy. So that was the first play at the Shaftesbury.
Run for Your Wife.
Later, after it had run its limited run at the Shaftesbury, which is what they all had a limited run, the plays at the Theatre of Comedy. We transferred it to the Whitehall, didn't we? I think.
No, I think we went to the Comedy Festival.
Because it actually transferred round the West End. Well, no, which was the theatre that was it? The Albury that was going to be.
It went to
yeah, it transferred to about 4 theatres in the West End over.
It was so successful. It ran for such a long time. I don't know how long it ran in
London.
London.
Nearly 9 years.
Well, it was 8 years. 8 years.
8 years in London for a play. That's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And of course, it became famous worldwide. Did you know, sort of straight away, that this was a winning play? This would really work.
Well, I think one did, because we did what I usually did. That we tried it out and done 2 rewrites, and then tried it out. I think the last theatre was Windsor, and it went so wonderfully well. One knew that we'd got a funny play, and of course, then we cast. Who did we cast?
Bernard Cribbins.
We're talking about One for the Pot.
No, we're talking about Run for Your Wife.
Oh, Run for Your Wife. Where are we?
You've written so many; it is confusing for everybody. But Run for Your Wife, we're talking about. Actually, what was clever about Run for Your Wife, and I don't know whether this was your idea, that you would bring in different actors, 2 different actors to play.
That's right.
The 2 leads. So it always had that. It was.
Well, we changed the cast every 3 months so that we could bring in television names who'd be happy just to do 3 months, wouldn't have committed to a run of a play. So we were doing the play all the time. As it ran so long,
it was Dickie Briers.
It was Dickie Briers and Bernie Cribbins to start with.
What a
Bill
combination. Richard Briers and Bernard Cribbins. What a combination!
Not bad.
And of course, again, 2 great parts for the women, the 2 wives. Because for those people who don't know it, it's about a taxi driver who, amazingly, has got 2 wives, and he's running 2 different lives. He's living in one place, and he's living in another place, and of course, he's a taxi driver, so he can be anywhere. And the 2 wives don't know, and it's chaos completely ensues. I remember coming to see it in London when lovely actor called William Gaunt, Bill Gaunt, who people know from the Champions, and I'd been doing Move Over Mrs. Markham with him.
Yeah.
And he opened in Run for Your Wife, and there was a lady next to me. She wasn't anything to do with us. She was, first of all, she was pounding the chair in front of me. And then she ended up kneeling on the floor, and she was hyperventilating. She literally watching the play and start watching this woman. And why do you think that particular play works so well?
I think because it's a wonderful basic premise, and it's just so full of laughter.
Yeah.
It's tell the story of that couple who were having a fight almost, and you tell them.
What about when it was on at the Shaftesbury one evening, Linda and I were in the foyer, and a couple came in. What were they? What was the basic thing?
I didn't know.
We can't think now what they were arguing about, but they were arguing about something. I'm not going to go, you darling. We've got no. Don't shout for it. I will bloody shout you. Could you? So this was so. we went and spoke to them, didn't we?
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I said, you're okay. I mean, I can see that you're a bit upset, but I assure you, and let me know, I assure you that when you see the first act of this, you will have laughed so much, you will have become enjoined again. And I kind of got serious. And they said, yeah, we'll bloody see, won't we? So they went in, and in the interval I came out, and they came over to me and they said, we have never laughed so much in all our lives. God, this is a funny play. So that's what it does.
Brilliant. Brings people together. People love laughing. They really do. You became really famous in France, of course, didn't you? Because they love farce,
But the plays are done all over the world. They're done in Japan, South Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Russia.
Russia's that's where I earn the most royalties from Russia. Audiences, people like to laugh, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Have you ever been to see a play, one of your plays, that you had nothing to do with, apart from writing it, of course, and granting the rights to it and all that? Have you ever been to see? You don't have to name the particular production or the actors, but have you ever sat in the audience and gone, "Oh no, what are they doing with this?"
I wouldn't have done that gesture, but I have sat in the audience and pretend I'm laughing when it's absolutely terrible. But the interesting thing is, although I think it's not very good, the audience are laughing in all the right places.
Yeah.
Even though it's not being well delivered.
Yeah. It's almost foolproof. Anybody who's worked with you, and there will be actors watching this, who have worked with you, they know that you are so well known for your notes, the endless notes. There are pages and pages and pages. And it's all for the right reasons. It's all for the right reasons. It's because you want it to work. You're not trying to get actors to have a nervous breakdown or anything. You want it to be as good as it possibly can be, and you want your actors to be as good because you know where the laughs are. So we all know it's coming from the right place. But when you're in the middle of a show and you're trying to learn it all, it's very hard, Ray.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever had actors who've said, "Ray, I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore"? Has that ever happened?
No, that actually has never happened. But I did have I won't mention his name. There was an actor once on the first day of rehearsal. I actually was staying in a hotel, and I was by the window having had breakfast just prior to going to rehearsal, and I saw this actor come out of the hotel. He'd been staying in the hotel as well. Come out of the hotel and get in his car and drive off. And I thought, why does he need to drive the car? The theatre's only around the corner. And of course, he'd fled because he got scared. But that's only happened once.
Yeah, it is scary. It is scary. What do you think makes a great farce actor? And who are the ones who you would particularly say?
Well, the actors who will play it truthfully and play it for real. What's you, for instance?
Oh, well,
yeah.
Very real.
You don't want the last thing you need are actors who are trying to be funny.
Yeah,
because the laughs come out of the dramatic line through the play. Because take Run for Your Wife. I mean, he's got 2 wives, and he's had the 2 wives for a number of years. And God, they might meet up. His life, everything will be finished.
Yeah.
So the actors have to play all that for real, but knowing that they're within a comedy.
Yeah. That's actually not as easy to do as it sounds. But one of the notes you've always given is remember what's at stake. Remember what's happened. Yes, they're laughing. Everybody's falling around. It's very funny, but you are in this terrible situation, and you've got to play it for real. So I think that's why those of us who've worked with you, we've sort of
most actors respond so well to that. The only danger is that once it gets into once they've opened the run, if they're in a long run, once they've opened the run and it goes so well all the time, then now and again you might find the actor who will start to put silly things in, like there might be a sequence where he's drinking a cup of tea, and we haven't this wasn't in the original production. Somebody might say something, and you'll go and just put.
Yeah.
But you know, you've got to be careful they don't just run away with it, because then the audience might lose the dramatic line through it.
Yeah.
If they look as though they're trying to be funny.
But I wonder if I mean, these plays now, your plays, when they're done in the right situation, take Move Over Mrs. Markham. We did a production of it. It was the 50th anniversary production.
Yeah.
We did it at Sonning, which is the perfect setting for a play.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
And you very cleverly said, we are going to set this in 1972, 73, whenever it was. The set was fantastic. The music, as soon as it started, you knew where you were. As soon as somebody walked on and they were in the 1970s wardrobe, you know, costume, were. So therefore, the audience accepted the situation. They accepted no mobile phones. They accepted some of the slightly non-PC moments, because we're in time. Maybe that's why it can still work now.
Yeah, well, I think it probably is just that slightly better to set it back in the 70s or 60s. My wife was Finty Williams.
Yes, he was so good in Markham.
Oh, yeah, Judy Dench's daughter, Finty Williams. She was so good in Mrs. Markham.
Yeah, she was tremendous.
Well, everybody was
tremendous, and they're difficult to do. It takes a heightened energy and as you say, a real effort. So Ray, we're recording this in July, early July 2020.
Okay.
Because who knows who will see these interviews? You know, as time goes, we've all been in isolation. Everything stopped. How have you coped with this particular time? Were you a little bit scared about the virus at all?
Well, I was scared for other people, but not for me, because I just adore being isolated in our garden, which is what Linda. That was the door banging. They haven't shot the vicar. So no, it hasn't really affected us at all. It's been delightful. And you see, you can still contact people like we're speaking now. Yeah. You can still get in touch with people.
Yeah.
So we're okay.
And what about when all this ends? Because there's no sign of you stopping. Have you got any more plans?
You mean within the business?
Within the business, yeah.
Not really, no. There's nothing lined up.
2 to 1 at Sonning.
Oh, yes, so that Linda's just reminding me, we're doing 2 to 1 at Sonning, but not because of the theatres being closed. It was going to be done this autumn, and now it's probably going to be done early the following year. So I may or may not direct it, because I've obviously got a couple of good pals who are good directors.
I always want to thank you for a few years ago when we were about to do one of your plays on tour. You weren't directing it, you were kind of overseeing it. We were doing Wife Begins at 40, and unfortunately there was a financial problem with the producer. We won't go into names. And just as we were about to open on, I think it was about a 10-week tour, it all collapsed. And you'd been in to see the technical rehearsal, and then you heard that it had collapsed financially. And you came in and you said to us all, we're going to do it for a week. We're going to open up in Blackpool, the beautiful Grand Theatre. And you paid everybody. You made sure everybody got paid proper money. And the set was built. The set was beautiful. And we did it. And of course, later on, we did it again. And I always say that shows what Ray Cooney is really like. It's true, because you love actors, and a lot of writers, directors would have said, oh, well, that's the way it goes, and walked away. But you really saved us. So I wanted to thank you for that. Because I'll never forget that.
Well, I'm just fortunate enough to have a bit of dosh that I can put into the theatre, which I don't mind doing.
Yeah. Well, there's no sign of you stopping, I think. I think you'll always be there as long as you can. It's just fantastic.
Well, I do actually financially support a lot of young producers. We've got quite a list, I think we've got now. But
about 20 of them.
Linda's just said about 20 of them.
She says through gritted teeth.
We've got to rein him in, Linda, obviously. By the way, I'm looking at all the artwork at the back there. That's all Linda's work, isn't it?
All Linda's.
Yeah,
all Linda's.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's just been great talking to you, and great talking to you, Linda, as well. Thanks for prompting occasionally, because there's so much to remember.
Oh God,
so much to remember. And
I've been in the business nearly 75 years.
I know.
Oh.
I know.
When we were looking up,
no wonder I forget some of it. Won't forget any lines.
What were you saying, Linda? When you were looking up, you were
saying... last night we couldn't remember dates of some of the plays, and like I said, I can't believe all the stuff you've done. And suddenly you hit a button on the iPad, and up came a very curious American production, and they'd called it "Whose Wife Is It Anyway?" And we recognised it as actually 2 into 1, and it was some theatre, and it's all on the YouTube. If you hit the wrong button, you can find almost anything.
It's all there. I know. One thing I'm a little bit sad about is never seeing Michael Williams do one of your plays, because I know he was in a couple of your plays, and
yeah,
I've heard legendary stories about him and how fantastic he was, and that would have been great. I think he and Donald Sinden did some stuff together.
Yeah.
What a combination.
Yeah.
What a combination.
They did 2 into 1, and I think they did Out of Order as well.
It's Out of Order and 2 into 1.
Yeah. Well, you've left a fantastic legacy, Ray. Your plays will always be performed by somebody, probably all over the world, forever. So thank you for that. And thank you for your time today.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching that conversation. If you've enjoyed it, please go to the Acting for Others website, which is actingforothers.co.uk, and hit the donate button, which will take you immediately to the Just Giving page. And please give as little or as much as you possibly can to help those performers and people in the industry who really need your help financially right now. Thanks a lot.